For the funeral procession of the former gangster Reggie Kray. He died 10 days ago after a long battle with cancer. Reggie Kray and his twin brother Ronnie were convicted of murder and sentenced to life in jail in 1969.
Reggie Kray's final journey, surrounded by his own people. A heady taste of the old East End. It was the traditional gangland send-off. Many of the floral tributes were brash, a few were from celebrity friends. The cortege passed the street where the Kray twins were born. This is the area they ruled through fear and violence. But many of those lining the route had conveniently forgotten all that. Just why there are so many people here today is something of a puzzle. For most, the Krays belong to history. But our dubious fascination with gangsters and their so-called glamour clearly has a strong appeal for some people.
It's because he represented not just a villain, but a kind of also the pair of them were so unique, being twins. There was something rather mythic, rather strange about them, and it also brought people back to an older time. And now the end is near.
At St. Matthew's Church, the voice of Frank Sinatra seemed wholly in keeping with the tone of the occasion. Hundreds stood outside, but fewer than the organisers had promised. Reggie Kray's widow Roberta shared the gangster's last few weeks after his release from jail on compassionate grounds. Now he lies with his twin Ronnie, the end of an era. John Silverman, BBC News, East London.
Thousands turned out to see the final chapter in the history of one of London's most notorious families, as Paul Davis reports.
It was the East End funeral that Reggie Kray had planned in his prison cell. Free at last was the message spelt out in flowers, reflecting 31 years served for the murder of a fellow gangster. Many of Kray's friends and former associates were present to make sure everything went to his plan. 6 black horses led the cortege through Bethnal Green, along streets the Krays once ruled with fear, with modern-day East Enders lining the route. The procession moved onto Valence Road, birthplace of the Krays' story.
It was here that the Kray twins, Ronnie and Reggie, their older brother Charlie, were brought up by a doting East End mother. In the family's tiny terraced house, they ran their empire of crime, extortion and protection rackets.
In those days, the Kray twins, known as the Firm, were notorious for their violent means of persuasion. Today, at his memorial service, Reggie Kray's own choice of music suggested he had few regrets. Reggie Kray was buried in the family plot in Chingford alongside his brothers and mother. Paul Davis, ITN, in the East End of London.